This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for the rant. Yes, the rant is back with Barbara Rose Brooker. And I think we're taking a little different view this time, Barbara. We are really going to be talking about the difficult issues. And that's why it's called the rant. And for those of you who may not know who Barbara Rose Brooker is, I think you've been under a rock for a while because she's the founder of Age March. And in 2021, we had a virtual Age March, and Barbara's going to be able to tell you a little bit more about where her dream came from and how Age March affects all of us, young, somewhere in the middle, and somewhere at the other end of the spectrum. So, Barbara, welcome back, and tell us what we're going to talk about today.
Thank you, Karen. Well, we're going to talk about, for me, everything and anything is possible at any age and at every age. And like life, sometimes our dreams, they get put on hold, things get stuck. But in our culture, in my opinion, ageism is rampant. It's just a horrible thing. And you're told it's too late, or you can't do it again, or it's this, or it's that. And what I'm really talking about is our generation, our generational attitudes towards age. And everything is possible at any age. If you want to be a movie star, at 80, well, then do it. In other words, pursue, have your purpose.
Well, you've got a purpose, and you've had a purpose for a very long time.
85 years.
85 years.
85 years, yes. And I'm still an author. I'm still writing. I have another book coming out. Probably it'll be early 2022. But it's not just that. There's a lot of things I want to do. And I'm inspired by other women, by you, Karen, by our guest today, which I'm looking forward to hearing from, by so many women of every age, every single age, who are doing spectacular things.
Absolutely. So your guest, Leyna, some on the West Coast might recognize her because she's been a broadcaster for a very long time, although she doesn't look old enough to be a broadcaster for a very long time. And now she is the hostess of a great podcast. And I will tell you that I wait to hear your podcast because I live vicariously through your guests.
I do too.
So can you sort of tell us, you were in the broadcasting field, and one of the things I notice when I'm watching the news, it seems like the faces get younger and younger and younger, and nobody is like at that desk for long periods of time. Is there ageism in broadcasting?
Of course there is. And more so with women, right? So like when men get older, they get distinguished, right? They look seasoned. And when women get older, they just get older. So yes, for the most part, what you said is true, is that very often you will see that, and because it's a visual medium, the people at the top of the pay scale think that, well, people only want to look at young, beautiful women. And so very often that's what you're going to see. I think there's been a shift in the industry where, younger people who want to get ahead in the industry will work for less money. There's something to be said by, no, I'm not going to take a pay cut, or I will not do this. And that's okay. And so I think the public needs to know that, despite people kind of arguing about things or complaining about things, if they're still watching, then the bosses, at the network, they're still going to continue these practices. So if you don't like something, if the person on your TV screen, you can tell just got out of school and is hired, for looks, she's not really, the stories aren't impactful, well, then you got to stop watching. But as long as you continue to feed that, they'll continue to feed that. So, but that's an age-old thing that's always been going on. So it does happen a lot. And I think it's up to people like you and I, we need to put our foot down at some point and really just take a stand, if not for anyone else, but for ourselves. Right?
See,
Absolutely.
taking a stand is so important. We have to take a stand. And when you talk about broadcasting, I think, for example, in 60 Minutes, Leslie Stahl, I love Leslie Stahl. She's over 50 or whatever. Who cares? She's terrific. Yet the man, Larry King, was what, in his 80s when he left and everyone watched him? Well, God forbid a woman should be in her 80s and be a broadcaster. Thank God for Betty White, who now is a bit of an emblem that she was working at 99, and we watched her and loved her. But then again, she became an anomaly. People would say, oh my God, look at her age. But how about not doing that? Just having people who are, like you say, Leyna, terrific in their field, and it doesn't matter what age they are. And do you notice, both of you, that the attitude, the sociological attitude towards age has changed, is changing, and how we must take a stand? We have to take a global stand on this. It can't just be a soundbite or a shampoo. We've got to do something about it.
Right. I absolutely think it's changing, because because Leslie Stahl is still, because you're seeing older women still in TV, things are changing. And, like if things weren't changing, we'd be in really big trouble, because we've had a lot of time to evolve. And if those thoughts don't change with the times, then we're in big trouble. So yeah, absolutely, there is change. Can more be done? Of course. And more can always be done, right?
Yes. And again, I'm just going to promote this. That's why I founded Age March, because it really symbolizes a global movement for people of all ages, genders, sexualities, races to age together and come together. It's just not really a soundbite. It's not a how to be 50 and be terrific book. It's really, I do feel in this generation, and I'm so much older than both of you, in this current generation, we are just on the very tip. We're talking about ageism. We're making a product of it through shampoos and books and sitcoms, but are we really integrating the message? The people out there who are listening to this podcast and watching this podcast, maybe some of the people are in their 80s and 90s and they're thinking, oh, sure, they can talk, they're this, they're this, they're this. But how do I do it? How do I get my idea?
And what I think it is, Barbara, is people like you, myself, Leyna, if we share who we want to be and what we want to do. And as we've talked about, find that purpose in life. You know, if you go back 30, 40 years ago, women in their 70s or 80s, for the most part, their purpose they saw had already happened. Now they were just sort of waiting time out. I was very lucky. I had a mother who always had a purpose in life. My mother, up until a year before her stroke, made chocolate chip cookies for every home Piston game because she loved her Detroit Pistons, and she had the cookies delivered to them. And this is what she could do. And there's no reason why we all can't find that purpose in our life and work towards it, whether we're 15 years old or we're 118. Anywhere in between.
It's all true, Karen, but the media does not project what you just said. They really don't.
Right.
They promote anti-age, not pro-age. they don't do that. It's still a hidden negative thing. Like if I've said many times when I go on talk shows, or up to 21, I did, up to 2021, I did, they say, don't tell your age. The hosts, I won't even mention their names, famous celebrity hosts have said, don't tell your age. Of course I did, because I don't go around telling my age. It's no one's, who cares? You know, but the thing is, I do it on purpose because I really am trying to say, you know, if I'm pursuing my dream, you can pursue your dream no matter what age you are. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to go on talk shows. You don't have to write books. Maybe you want to listen, now with everything online and our virtual world because of the COVID, there's many more possibilities for those people, men and women at home, 50 to 100, who have ideas, who maybe couldn't get out there, can go online, they can go on YouTube, they can create all kinds of things. Do you think so, Leyna? Do you see that?
Well, I mean, just look at podcasting, right? It's gotten so popular. So look at all of the people who retired and are now a much busier in retirement, but doing something that they love and they want to do.
Yes.
So just looking at podcasting alone, you've got people who are now, you know, past the 9-to-5 work thing that they did and reinventing themselves,
Yes.
right? Putting themselves out there, learning new things. Like like you guys know, the whole technical thing, you know, sticking this in here and making sure it works. I loved that. It was great to learn something new and then to start mastering it. So like that in itself. And then podcasting has really opened the doors to talking about, well, really everything, anything and everything. But Barbara, what you were just talking about, don't tell your age. Let me tell you, my podcast is called Consenting Adults, and it's about sexuality over the age of 40. Okay. I was told you shouldn't tell people your age. And why not? Right.
Oh, that too. Oh my.
And but it became, and to me, it's like, no. That's the whole point. The whole point is like I'm 52 and I feel sexier and better than I've ever had.
You're a baby.
And people, like, for instance, people don't want to think about older people having sex.
I know. Oh, I know.
What? It is, they're so sexually active and they're enjoying it, which is actually very different. And we all know, especially women in their 20s and 30s, you may be having a lot of sex, but honey, you're not really enjoying yourself the way you could be.
Right.
You haven't really learned much about yourself yet.
That's right.
Right. So that's what I'm talking about. And so when I heard from a couple of people actually that, you know, you shouldn't tell people your age because like, you don't look your age and, you know, don't tell people your age. I'm no. I want to tell people my age. I want to put this thing out there. It's like, you're not dead after 40. In fact, hey, look what everyone's doing. Like you guys don't even know what's in store for you yet. I want that out there.
See, I think that is extremely important because first of all, people can look at you, you're beautiful. You have this wonderful profession, so forth and so on. And they can say, wow, she's 52 and maybe I can learn the technology and maybe I can start a podcast or I can start a cooking show or I can do this. And you're absolutely right. I think that of all ages, we have to go out there and try to inspire others, not say, oh, it's me, you know, not to shut off people, but to bring them in. And the podcast, yes. Anyone can be a star now.
Yeah.
Be a star. If
Absolutely.
They be a star. You know, I cruise YouTube all the time, you know, for shows, cooking shows, so forth. It's amazing some of the people who are out there in their kitchens, you know, throwing things around. It's fun. it's a new world. But let me ask you, Lena, how did you learn the technology? Because a lot of people are going to say, okay, she learned it, she liked it, but I don't even know how to do this or do that. How do you?
So when I quit my job, and while I was working, everyone else did all the technical stuff. Like I literally
Right.
had to read a teleprompter. I mean, and that's dumbing it down. I did a lot more than that, but I didn't have to figure out how to make it go into your house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So of course, what do? You go on YouTube, you get on the internet and you start researching things. And I love that. I love learning. And it made me feel younger. I'm telling you, I'm not saying this because we're talking about aging.
No, it's true.
After I quit my job, after I turned 50, I felt younger. I mean, I really, and I don't know, maybe it sounds corny. I really felt more vibrant. And I think it's because I was working towards something. You know how sometimes when you've been in your industry so long, you're just going through the motions.
Yes.
Soon you're just phoning it in, right?
Yeah.
But when you are going after something, like I had something to strive for, I was still learning things. So if you're not learning something, I think then you're kind of, then you might as well just take a back seat. And like you said, just wait for the time to run out.
I think that's amazing. I love that you did that. And going on YouTube, I'm always typing in YouTube, how do I do this or that? And this did this. And then I take notes on it. For those who don't even want to do that, some people can hire students. Kids who are so sharp with technology will help you through it as well, because it is a virtual world now. Let's face it. Technology is the key. Learning and technology. Look at the classes that are available now. I mean, I'm taking classes online that I probably wouldn't have taken before, because you'd have to drag to the university and you have to do this and you have to this. You one click away and you're on these incredible classes.
Yeah. I have a friend who is 78 years old, and he now is so much like he's healthier, and he's just, I love the transformation I've seen in him. And it's happened in the last 2 years since the pandemic.
Right.
And then you're like, what? That doesn't make sense. Well, here's how it makes sense. So I started going online and doing live streams and stuff just to keep my community of friends active and together when everything shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, oh, wow. I mean, this is really something. It's not a temporary thing, right? This is it.
This is it.
Yeah. And you really have to embrace it. I know there are people, I hate social media, and I hope you hate YouTube. And there are really a lot of bad things about social media, but it really is the future. And you need to embrace it in whatever way you can embrace it. But if you ignore it, you will be left behind. It is
left behind. Yep. Absolutely. I mean, this is the world now. Remember, well, you're too young, but I remember when the answering machine came in.
Oh, of course I remember that.
Yeah, the answering machine, and then it was getting a website.
Pagers.
Now the world is in our homes. And this screen right here, we can go anywhere and talk to anybody. We can take a class. If you want to take a class in England or France or whatever, click in, go on masterclass, sign up for all the classes, and just click. It's not even expensive. I mean, so learning and education goes back to the purpose of things. I think that is really interesting. Tell me more about your podcast. That sounds very interesting.
Well, so it started out, I said, I want to do a podcast because I love talking to people and I love learning new things. So, but there are a million, and actually more than that, like 2 million something podcasts out there. And if you really want to be successful in whatever way you define that, you kind of have to find your own niche, right? It can't just be, I'm just going to go on there and talk. About what?
Right.
Well, we all know sex is something everyone likes to at least hear about, if not talk about. Another thing I love doing is I love, one, making people a little uncomfortable and
Mhm.
making myself a little uncomfortable. Okay. Uncomfortable is not a bad thing. Being uncomfortable allows room for growth. Because
Yes.
if you're not growing, then you're done. I'm not done yet, right? So I like being uncomfortable. So I like discussing topics that, maybe you at home would be like, oh, tell me more. And that's kind of the way the podcast comes across to a lot of people. So my audience, and I didn't know when I started this, that there's a thing called the lifestyle. Like to me, that was like Robin Leach lifestyle.
Lifestyle.
right.
But the lifestyle is an ethically non-monogamous community. And now I know that there are so many people out there who are in this community and in the dark because they fear being judged. I mean, people in all walks of life are ethically non-monogamous.
Yes.
And I find it just amazing and intriguing. And it's not a show about sex. So if you just listen to the title and listen to, the episodes, like, oh, they're talking about sex. No. We're talking about communication, growth, right? Intimacy, relationships, respect, trust, dealing with your emotions. How do I deal with jealousy? Things that make us human. And so then it kind of evolved into this podcast about the lifestyle. I hadn't listened to one podcast before I started this. Not one. I heard the word, didn't even really know what it was. Well, there are a ton of podcasts about the lifestyle out there. I didn't know this. Mine is different in that I'm not in the lifestyle, and I talk to different people who are kind of on different places in the spectrum of being in the lifestyle. So I might be talking to lesbians, might be talking to bisexual men who still face a stigma even within the lifestyle. I'm talking to swingers, people who are polyamorous. I'm talking to people who love, husband and wife swapping, BDSM, like femdom, like stuff I never even heard of.
This is fascinating. And I'm so excited hearing this because you're talking about humanness. You're talking
Absolutely.
about the human species. I mean, my God, I was brought up in a generation of a Hallmark greeting card. Marriage and the baby carriage, till death do us part. Now, I don't mean to mock that for people who have that and love that and want that, but that's a little teeny fraction of, I call it humanness. And even now, as we embrace, hopefully, more trans, gay, well, there's many.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I did. They added some more letters to it. So it's LGBTQIA plus now.
Yes. The thing is, there's so many ways to live your life, mostly to be who you are, who you feel you are. It's really about that instead of, oh, go get some Botox and this product will make you look younger. This is what the media generally does. But what you're doing and what you're bringing in, Leyna, as I'm interpreting, this is very exciting. You're bringing humanity into your
Real people.
real people with
Real people.
real feelings, emotions, ways of being intimate, ways of having relationship, ways of being themselves. It's really about the self, isn't it?
Sure. I mean, we've all heard it when you talk about growing older and finding happiness in life. The one thing that, like that word, authenticity.
Yeah.
Well, what does it really mean? People throw it around a lot.
No, it's
Authenticity is being able to be yourself, right? Without really the fear of judgment from others. Like, I may like something that, Barbara, you think is nuts, but you know what? You're still going to like me because you like me.
exactly.
Right? What I do doesn't affect you at all.
Exactly.
Just let me be and let's share, right? Let's talk about stuff, and you don't have to do what I'm doing. So that's kind of the approach that I'm taking with this, is that, yeah, some of the stuff is nuts. I'm telling you, don't listen with kids around because it is adult content. And there will be some adults who will be plugging their ears because they're like, oh my God, I can't, that's weird.
Oh, but that's the thing is, this is so important because you're bringing people, humanity, people in to your podcast. You're giving them a voice. And in our culture, as I see it, forgive me if I sound really enraged, but we're so divided. Religion too has really created this terrible judgment. What an irony. We're not supposed to have judgment in religion. God is not supposed to judge, but there's so much judgment. Look at all the crazies on the right now because of Trump. Look at these people, how I don't even get me started.
So let me share the following. One of the things I've noticed about podcasters, and Leyna, I'm wondering if you have found this too. We are open to each other. I have been interviewing podcasters who are younger than my youngest son. They're in their early 20s. I've had guests on who are in their 80s. And yet I find that in each of the conversations, there is something that binds us together. And it's not just the podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that either we did when we were younger or our parents said. And when I find that, I remind people we have more in common than we don't. And so why are we pointing fingers at each other? You know, I have a friend who said to me this morning, they saw me at the grocery store and it was like, you had no time to dry your hair today? And I said, no, I decided to go natural today. And it was the truth. I didn't want to stand and straighten out my hair. And her comment to me was, well, you look better when your hair is straightened.
Go
And I
put it
said,
back over your face.
So all I did was I looked at her and I said, well, I appreciate that. But you know what? This is who I am today. And we have to start owning that so other people will accept it of us.
Well,
we have to own what
True.
is authentic to us.
And stop judging people. Stop separating and compartmentalizing people because a man has a vagina. So what? He's a man. He is a man. Listen to people. Listen to all the different kinds of people and stop judging. By the way, your hair looks beautiful.
I was fishing for that.
Well, you know, we always want what we don't have, right? Like I would have to work to get it to be full and curly and wavy or whatever. But you're talking about that. Of course, when you're in TV, when you're in the media, and you're always facing criticism. Always.
Oh,
The way you look, or your hair, or that dress you wore that day, or this or that, whatever. And you know, when I was younger, it used to bother me, like it does with everybody.
yeah.
And then after a while, it's like, okay, I realized that when people act out that way, so, you know, you may think something, but the effort you put into voicing it, that to me is poison, right? But it really is a reflection on them.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, why the hell do you need to say that to anyone? You don't.
Exactly.
Well, do you find, Leyna, and I don't know if Karen does, that in your jobs, in your podcasting, that people will comment on, say, your hairdo or how you look, or people you work for, Leyna, as a reporter, journalist? Did you have any stuff like
So
that?
let me tell, and I've not shared this publicly. These are the kind of conversations that happen in newsrooms. And I'm not talking about something that I, heard one person say. It's like the whole, we have these afternoon meetings and morning meetings. So like a bunch of us. So like if you asked, people would say, oh yeah, that happens or that happened.
Mhm.
But supervisors would be telling the women things like, you need to wear a shorter skirt. You know, you should wear a padded bra. You should show a little more cleavage. These conversations actually take place.
It's just hard to believe. Or you have to look younger. You know, that one, I understand that is very prevalent.
Yes, and it sounds so childish, and it is. It's amazing the things that I've seen in a newsroom.
So
Like we've had like the weathercaster, you know, cry because the news director told her the shade of blonde isn't working. She needs to change it. Little but big stuff like that, because it shouldn't be happening, but it does because it's a visual medium. He's your boss. He's going to tell you
it's
how to look, what to do, what to wear. You know, you can't cut your hair unless you get permission. You can't curl it if they don't like it. You can't tie it back if you don't look good that way. So that stuff happens. And it's kind of the nature of the beast, you know?
amazing. It's amazing. But I've also heard that, and I have seen this about the age as well. They
Oh, yeah.
really get rid of her. She's too old. But the men stay. That's what fascinates me. The men stay.
So I can also tell you that, you know, very often you will come in for an audition. They'll put you on a set. They'll have you read. And years down the road, I was told by someone who was in the control room, who became, you know, a friend, who's a colleague, who said, when you came in that day, the news director had the camera person zoom into my eyes so they could see my wrinkles.
Oh.
And I was like, are you really? They're like, yeah. I mean, because it's a concern. They look at those things. It matters to them. So, I mean, you know, whatever you guys thinking in the public is true is probably true. It happens.
So, Leyna, what do we do about it?
Well, I don't know that there's much other than the public really just has to speak up. And I've seen more and more of people complaining now that social media about, why is she, you know, she doesn't know what they recognize when you've got a green person on the air who was hired probably not for the skills, especially in bigger markets now. It used to be that you would pay your dues and hop around small markets and make your mistakes and get better and pay your dues before you get to the big markets.
Exactly.
Now it's like, you know, she graduated, you know, a year or two ago, and now she's in Los Angeles, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But, and I don't mean to bash the business, because of course there's a bad part of the business and there's also a very good part of the business. When I got into this, there weren't a lot of Asians in the media, like Connie Chung, and that's all everyone ever knew.
Yeah.
So we've made great advances in being able to get different faces out there.
And hopefully more.
Yeah.
And especially now with the terrible hate crimes, the Asian hate crimes, that's a whole nother subject. There's so much hate in this culture and division with every single group, genders, races, people of, you know, different sexual orientations. What do we do about it? And that's why age will sound even trivial, the subject of ageism compared to everything, but it is an umbrella. You know, like gay pride is such a wonderful, Pride Month is so embraced by the world. And I keep saying, why don't we have an age Pride Month to integrate with Gay Pride Month? So people of all ages, there's so many people who are 50 up to 100. I've talked to some of them. I've interviewed some of them. They want to work. Now, I hope, like Leyna said before, with the technology, that there's more opportunity now to work and to get online and to be hired. But even online, they ask, you know, they want certain ages.
Well, and I will tell you, we have a TV station here in Cleveland, and they are very diverse. All different sizes, all different ethnicities. And it's not a channel that I typically watch, but my husband and I started watching it in the morning, and we both said it feels more human. And the reason being, they look like the people in my community. And I said to him, isn't it interesting that when we watch the nightly news, okay, I go to ABC, and ABC probably has a lot of very young people in their evening news. But there's something about that I can do. But my local news, seeing people who are like me and like my neighbors,
The
I'm
local-
listening to them and I'm going, oh, that is an issue. Maybe I better check it out more, rather than having somebody who looks so perfect. And I'm looking at the TV screen thinking, boy, I look like I just rolled out of bed.
Leyna, do you see that a lot with the difference between the people in local news? They will hire somebody older in local news, but they will not in.
I think you'll see more of a difference in the size of the market. So the higher up you go, you probably will find something that is not as representative of your community, like you were saying.
Mhm, mhm.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, I am seeing, like, for instance, not everyone's a size 2 or a 0.
Exactly.
And so, and we are seeing more people like that. But here's the problem. The problem is you've got these idiots at home watching, and they're very vocal,
Yes.
right? And now with social media,
Oh,
who
that's
are picking on women for,
everything.
their size and whatever. So, but that's a problem.
Or this or I know.
But what's amazing to me is that, who are we marketing to? Because the people who actually have the control are women. Women are spending money, and it's women our age who are spending money. So then let's market to us.
But they're not. They're
They're
not.
not.
That's
And it's that way in just about every single industry. It's that way in the medical field.
Mhm.
Like, you know what? When a man has a hard time getting an erection, they got on it like that and they came up with something.
Yeah.
And I think, Karen, I don't recall if you and I talked about this, but like those issues for women, dealing with low libido and menopause and premenopause and all that stuff, like they don't want to talk to us about that.
Oh no. No, it's not mentioned.
Right. And hey, guess what? You guys aren't going to be happy unless the women are happy. So you need to start looking at women's issues, especially women who are middle-aged.
That's a
They're
good
the one with the power.
Good
Absolutely.
point. But the women have to help the women who are also older. They have to bring them in, and they're not doing it. Karen, I have said it's very compartmentalized. 50 to 60 are over here. And then there's this whole other 40 to 50 over here. Anything above 60, and that's been my platform. I hate the word platform, has been very, very difficult to reach anybody.
Right.
It's very divided. So how do we bring them all
Well, since we're talking about women, that's a whole nother thing.
That's a whole nother thing. I know.
Like, I don't understand. Well, I mean, I do understand it, and I've seen it all my life, but women supporting women is so important, and yet it doesn't happen enough.
No.
And so, like, for instance, if you get a woman in any kind of, supervisory position or like CEO or something, and it's a kind of a tricky thing because I don't believe anyone should be hired just because they're a woman. Okay. I don't think anyone should be hired just because they're Asian or just because they're Black.
Exactly.
Right. So it needs a lot of weighing for everything to work out right and work out the way I would like to see it worked out. But there's just something about women and this competitive nature that probably we were raised with. But like, I would love to see more women like supporting women and being constructive rather than tearing everyone down. I mean, there's still this little catty thing that's going on. It's
the mean girls, 50 up, and they're like a little army. So we have to, I think you made a wonderful point. Well, I'm going to leave my message today with I have a dream. And my dream is this Age March Global, Lena, you and Karen, you can lead it and be in front. The two different ages, the whole thing will be like a gay pride. It'll be an age pride, and it will be every single person, every gender, everything will be there with opportunities and to be together. But okay, that sounds a little, wacko, like ding, 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 ding. But it can happen if we speak out and we support each other. And that's why I've asked people who are listening, if they're interested in this theme of ageism, to write a story of their experience with age and ageism. And you know what they can win? They can be, right, Karen, they can be on a podcast.
Absolutely.
And we will read their letter or note or whatever. And who knows, it could go into a book later. I think it's important.
And I think there are more and more women who are starting these grassroots groups, especially online, because they're almost afraid face to face to talk about these issues because they didn't have a voice in the past.
I know they're very scared of it.
But I think they're learning, and with more podcasts like Lena's and yours and the others that I do, people start to realize, yeah, I am allowed to say something. In fact, I posted something on Facebook the other day, and I just asked a question. I said, so would you have a guest on your podcast? Okay. Do you ask them to support the podcast? And I can't tell you how many podcasters came back to me and said, absolutely not. And I said, okay, that's your choice. I said, I do because I believe in their voice. And I want other people to hear it. And I could have taken that very negatively. In fact, maybe 5-10 years ago, I would have said, oh, I'm doing it all wrong and they're all right. But no, I said, I asked for an opinion. I got it. I don't have to agree with it, but I have a voice, and we all do. And I think we have to start using it, but using it in a calm manner. We don't have to start getting angry with each other.
That's true. And I can't wait to hear Lena's podcast. I can't wait. Will you send me the
I will send you the links.
Let me also share with you. So I just started posting some of these episodes on YouTube because I was told that's the place you should do this.
Right. Yes, that's important.
But it's not video, so it's just audio, which means that I'm going to have a harder time trying to get people to actually stay and listen. It has blown up. This morning I checked, we had 1.4 million impressions, which means it's getting in front of a lot of people. Amazing. And when I look at the analytics, the largest group is 65 plus.
Yep.
I knew that.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
People want to talk about sex after 65. Who knew?
Oh, sex is the biggest seller in the world. Not only in the world, it keeps us breathing. Come on. Sex is it. It is the it subject. Let's talk about it. And let's all ages have sex and have a blast,
And Barbara, as I keep telling people, that the Viagra Diaries and Love Sometimes, it filled my life with so much energy. My husband and I are married 38 years, and
God bless you.
You say to yourself some days like, well, we have tomorrow. But after I read Viagra Diaries, I started reading parts to him, and he said, no, we have today, right now.
Well, thank you. It's up for a TV series, so let's hope the COVID really set it back. But the thing is, at 85, they think it's all out. They don't even ask me because they think I'm like, it's not possible to have, and that's a whole nother subject, Lena. Oh my God, I'd love to go on your podcast sometime and talk about the single sites. Those single sites when you're over 60, the attitudes about sex on there, it's disgusting. Wow. It is so stupid. Anyway.
We have to do that. We
Well,
have to have you on. We have to have you on to talk about that.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I love meeting you.
Great to meet you too. Good to see you again, Karen. Remember, it's
Same here.
consenting adults.
absolutely. And
Karen's always fabulous. And I just want to say thank you so much for your support, because you do support women, and you've supported me and so many women. And I think you're amazing.
well,
And you're over 60 and look what you're doing. It's amazing.
and I will tell you, you know, it doesn't make any difference what your age is. Have a purpose, work for it. And you know
Yes.
what? Like my husband says, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. So enjoy the day.
Yes. And go have sex and have fun.
Sounds great. Thanks, ladies. Bye.
Bye.